Later that night, our boy is running down the empty streets carrying a bag. Shortly after, he spots his grandpa standing there with what looks like a birthday cake. After that, we find Daeon blowing out the candles on her birthday cake with a single breath. Grandpa quickly cheers, shouting happy birthday to her. Grandpa then slides a Samsung Galaxy phone box toward Daeon. She's absolutely amazed by the new phone. The old man reminds her that he'd promised to get her a new one. Daeon feels a bit guilty, saying her old phone still works fine and there was no need for a new one. Anyway, it's finally Jin's turn to present his gift, and he promptly pulls out a big box. When Daeon takes a look at it, she discovers it's a Samsung notebook, which leaves her completely blown away because this shit costs a fortune to acquire. She starts to panic a little, saying it's all too much. Even Grandpa is baffled by how Jin could afford such an expensive notebook. But our boy casually explains he took on a part-time job to cover it. Grandpa keeps insisting that laptops are expensive, especially this new model that just came out this year. But Jin reassures him not to worry about it, saying he knows how inconvenient it can be without a computer in the room. Daeon quickly says thank you and promises her brother she'll put it to good use. After the pleasantries, Grandpa starts cutting the cake. Jin smiles at Daeon, but then his phone rings. It's Seoha-cha. He heads to his room to answer the call. Seoha explains that she's on a break and just wanted to check in. She asks if Daeon had a nice birthday celebration. In response, Jin states that they are celebrating it currently, and he thanks her for everything she did. But Seoha brushes it off, saying all she did was just stop by, have a chat, and she is actually really glad to meet such a lovely girl. She then asks him if he's busy tomorrow. Jin replies that he plans on going to security training since it's been a while, but she reminds him he's injured and questions if he'll be okay. He assures her he'll keep it light so he doesn't aggravate his wounds. With that, she asks if he's free the day after tomorrow. Jin says he'll be training that day as well. The lady gets frustrated by his constant excuses and, in irritation, asks if he's going to have fun during his training. He replies that he wouldn't call it fun, which only annoys her more. There's a persistent knock on her door, so she tells him she's heading back on set and will call him again another time. Suddenly Jin's phone rings, and it's an unknown caller. He quickly answers, and it turns out to be his friend 006, who says he's just entered the city today and wants to meet up. Under the dim moonlight, the two friends meet for a reunion. The blondie wastes no time and tells Jin that he wasn't planning to contact him, but there's something he needs to confirm. He says he heard that 032 came to eliminate our boy. Jin confirms it quickly, adding that Femboy has already returned to the camp once he learned Blondie is still alive. But the blondie sighs deeply and face palms in frustration while explaining that the Femboy never showed up at the camp. This news catches Jin off guard, who then explains that the Femboy had said going back to camp would be the only way to keep them off the trail. But Blonde highlights that according to his sources, he hasn't returned to the camp since he first disappeared. Jin then points out that 032 was also ambushed by a camp mercenary after he came to Korea to see him. This revelation makes Blondie even more frustrated, while Jin continues explaining, saying the camp probably sent the mercenary to bring 032 back, but the mercenary attacked him without proper authorization from the camp. Blondie then points out that the camp has always had a mix of mercenaries, those with numbers and those without. The numbered mercenaries were despised by the unnumbered ones, and shit only got worse after Jin left, especially with the camp bringing in more recruits. Jin asks his friend if he's sure they've taken 032. As much as he hates to admit it, Blondie says yes. Just then, the scene cuts to 032, who's tied to a chair and smeared with his own blood. A group of goons hovers over him, demanding he stop playing hard to get and start dishing out the details. They grill him about why he bolted without authorization, what Aiden's orders were, and where Aiden is now. By the way, this Aiden guy is probably the same gorilla who has been handed over to SW Corp already. Anyway, the femboy just smirks and throws back a sarcastic comment, asking if they're treating him like a cheating spouse or something. Of course, the cocky goon isn't happy with femboy's response. He quickly slaps him across the face, causing blood to drip down. The goon warns him to watch his tongue if he knows what's good for him, promising that if he answers the questions, he'll be allowed to live. But 032, despite taking copious amounts of beating, makes it clear he'll stay tight-lipped. He further throws a jab at them, asking if they really think he's afraid of dying. The scene then cuts to Grandpa and Daeon watching Seoha's latest show on TV. Meanwhile, Jin is alone in his room, probably thinking about his next move after his recent meeting with Blondie. The scene cuts back a little earlier to when he was talking with his friend. There, Blondie mentions he tried to track down 032 and he actually has a hunch about where he might be. Jin warns him that the camp will soon realize he's still alive, but Blondie states that he has no choice but to risk it, because 032 is the only family he has left.